Have you noticed the warning signs? Some states in America are hanging by a thread, and 2025 might just be the year everything comes crashing down. With soaring crime rates, crippling taxes, crumbling infrastructure, and residents abandoning ship in record numbers, these states are on the brink of total collapse. We surveyed over 3,000 people from across the nation, big cities, small towns, and everywhere in between, to find out which states are teetering closest to disaster. The results? Absolutely shocking. If you thought 2024 was chaotic, just wait. This next year might redefine the word. We're talking about industries collapsing overnight, roads and bridges falling apart faster than they can be fixed, and frustrated citizens fleeing like never before. Whether you're nodding in agreement or stunned into disbelief, one thing's for sure: this list will leave an impact. Heck, get ready, as we reveal the first 10 states that won't stand the test of time in 2025. This isn't just speculation, this is the hard truth, and it's about to hit home. Buckle up. Things are about to get real. Number 10, New York. New York, once the shining beacon of opportunity, culture, and ambition, is facing an alarming exodus. Known for its iconic skyline, Broadway magic, and non-stop hustle, the Empire State is now losing its grip on residents. And fast. Over 800,000 people have packed their bags and left in recent years, trading New York's sky-high costs for the more affordable suburbs of states like Florida and Texas. Remote work has only accelerated this trend, as people no longer feel tied to Manhattan's punishing rents or Brooklyn's multi-million-dollar price tags. The financial strain is undeniable, with median home prices in the city around $800,000 and much higher in premium neighborhoods. Home ownership remains out of reach for most. Combine this with some of the highest property taxes in the nation, and it's easy to see why families are choosing more affordable options elsewhere. Even Wall Street, long considered New York's financial juggernaut, hasn't been immune to uncertainty. Layoffs in the tech and finance industries are causing ripples across the economy, adding to fears about job stability. Public transportation, once the pride of the city, struggles under aging infrastructure and rising debts. Constant fare hikes are leaving residents frustrated as the system's reliability wavers. Meanwhile, crime, particularly in previously safe neighborhoods, creates sensational headlines, further intensifying the flight of families seeking security and stability. The once thriving upstate manufacturing towns are now ghost-like, their shops shuttered and streets eerily quiet, waiting for a revival that may never come. Small businesses, the backbone of community charm, are vanishing under the weight of insurmountable commercial rents. For many New Yorkers, the cost of living isn't just high, it's crushing. And looming over it all are staggering pension obligations that could cripple state finances if revenue continues to fall. New York's motto has long been about making it big, but these days, it feels more like, if you can't pay here, you can't stay here. The once unstoppable Empire State seems to be teetering, leaving many asking, is New York on the brink of collapse? Number 9. Kentucky. Kentucky, often celebrated for its rolling horse farms and world-famous bourbon, hides a deeper struggle beneath its southern charm. The state faces mounting challenges that could bring it to the brink of economic and social collapse if left unaddressed. Once powered by a thriving coal industry, Kentucky's backbone has crumbled as coal jobs vanished, forcing entire communities into an economic freefall. Generations who once relied on coal mining for their livelihoods are now displaced, with unemployment rates soaring far above the national average in some regions. Poverty casts a long shadow over the bluegrass state, with nearly 1 in 6 residents living below the poverty line. For years, Kentucky has ranked near the bottom in U.S. per capita income. What's worse, the struggling economy directly impacts education. Underfunded schools and chronic teacher shortages create a grim cycle, leaving many students without the skills needed to seize better opportunities. Low literacy rates and limited career prospects are the unfortunate result. Adding to these woes is a crumbling healthcare system. Rural hospitals face closure at alarming rates, leaving countless families without easy access to even basic medical care, effectively creating healthcare deserts. Meanwhile, the opioid epidemic continues to devastate Kentucky, with some counties recording staggering overdose death rates among the highest in America. While cities like Louisville and Lexington offer pockets of prosperity for the wealthy, the gap between these urban centers and rural areas grows more alarming every year. Rural populations are shrinking fast as families move elsewhere in search of a better future. This trend leaves behind empty towns and dwindling local economies. State leadership struggles to choose between funding critical areas like education, healthcare, or infrastructure, as budget shortages make prioritization nearly impossible. Without action, the state appears to be sinking deeper into crisis. Kentucky's famed Kentucky Derby and picturesque landscapes might draw in tourists, but for many locals, the everyday reality is far bleak. With declining industries, widespread poverty, and a crumbling infrastructure, Kentucky stands on a precarious edge, making its future in 2025 highly uncertain. Number 8. West Virginia. West Virginia finds itself caught in a painful paradox, awe-inspiring Appalachian vistas clashing with deep economic struggles. Once thriving on its coal mining industry, the state is now weighed down by a sinking relic of the past. Coal, once the backbone of West Virginia's economy, has turned into a burden as the world shifts toward clean energy and natural gas. West Virginia, its Senator Becky Hamble Franning shared with me, too many young, useful societies and communities. Towns that used to echo with the hustle of miners now sit eerily quiet, nearly abandoned, as younger generations leave in search of better opportunities. The state is battling one of the worst opioid crises in the nation, leaving behind devastated families and overwhelmed healthcare systems. With some of the highest overdose rates in the U.S., the epidemic is a constant, heartbreaking reminder of the state's struggles. Adding to the challenge, West Virginia's education system is chronically underfunded and underperforming, leaving its youth unprepared to compete in modern job markets and perpetuating a cycle of economic hardship. This has accelerated the brain drain, with talented individuals leaving in droves. The infrastructure only adds to the hardship. While the mountain roads of West Virginia may be picturesque, they're riddled with potholes, and its aging bridges are far past their prime. Internet access, a basic necessity in today's world, is limited in rural communities, cutting off many residents from the opportunities of a digital economy. These issues have left many feeling disconnected and seemingly left behind in a world rapidly moving forward. Although the state has made some attempts to reboot the economy through tech initiatives and call centers in places like Morgantown, the progress is minimal. Jobs still remain scarce, and West Virginia continues to battle one of the lowest median household incomes in the country, barely hovering above $48,000. Even the small tourism boost can't offset the deep economic wound. Number 7. Rhode Island. Rhode Island might be small in size, but don't underestimate its big problems. This tiny state is struggling with massive affordability challenges and a shaky fiscal foundation that could spell trouble in the near future. Housing costs have spiraled out of reach for most middle-income families, with the average single-family home price sitting close to a staggering $400,000. For a state that's barely a dot on the map, that's some serious financial pressure. And while Rhode Island is known for its coastal charm and seafood scene, a darker reality is unfolding. The pandemic left behind a trail of shuttered businesses, with many beloved local restaurants and shops closing their doors for good. Walk through town and you'll find quiet streets where thriving communities once stood. That's just if you make it to the town to start a brick and mortar. High property taxes, some of the highest in the nation, take a hefty toll on residents' wallets, making it harder for many to justify staying in the ocean state. Now, when it comes to doing business, Rhode Island has a reputation, and not a good one. Startups that are scouting New England often skip right over Rhode Island and head to neighboring Massachusetts or New Hampshire, which offer better tax breaks and stronger job markets. Young professionals are also steering clear. Instead of settling in Rhode Island, they're flocking to bustling cities like Boston or New York, leaving the local workforce outdated and sluggish. The state government is trying to turn things around, especially in Providence. Efforts like promoting the arts scene, hosting events like Waterfire, and creating tech incubators show potential. But large-scale investments, they just aren't happening fast enough. Meanwhile, underfunded pensions and budget issues loom like a storm cloud over Rhode Island's future. Even the basics like roads and public transport are falling apart. The infrastructure is outdated and inconvenient, adding yet another hurdle to the state's recovery efforts. Rhode Island may still have its scenic coastline, but beneath the surface, the cracks are spreading. If these issues aren't addressed soon, tiny Rhode Island could face a massive collapse. Number 6. Louisiana. When you think of Louisiana, the vibrant Mardi Gras parades, soulful jazz, and mouth-watering gumbo might come to mind. But beneath the surface, this state is battling crises that could bring it to its knees. Every year, Louisiana faces the wrath of powerful hurricanes that grow stronger with climate change. Coastal towns and major cities like New Orleans take the brunt of the damage, leaving a trail of destruction. Just look at Hurricane Ida in 2021. It caused an estimated $75 billion in damages, disrupting lives and livelihoods across the state. The challenges don't stop with the weather. Louisiana's heavy reliance on oil and gas places its economy on shaky ground. When oil prices plummet, entire regions from Lafayette to Lake Charles feel the ripple, with layoffs and cutbacks becoming all too common. The state's poverty rate, one of the highest in the nation at over 18%, deepens the struggles of communities, leading to high crime rates, broken infrastructure, and failing schools. New Orleans, a cultural beacon, is also in crisis mode. Affordable housing is scarce, crime is soaring, and some neighborhoods are still recovering from Hurricane Katrina nearly 20 years later. Young talent leaving for greener pastures only adds to the problem. Many graduates from top universities like LSU and Tulane flee the state, unwilling to gamble on an uncertain future. With a state budget constantly in the red, who can blame them? Healthcare, particularly in rural areas, remains another weak point, stretched beyond its limits by repeated natural disasters and chronic underfunding. Even Louisiana's tourism and hospitality industries, as vital as they are, cannot fully compensate for the long-term damage. Entire communities remain unlivable, a stark reminder of the state's ongoing decline. Louisiana stands at a crossroads, balancing on the edge of collapse. Its mix of environmental disasters, a fragile economy, and deep social issues paints a grim picture for the future. Is there a turnaround in sight, or will Louisiana be one of the first to fall? Only time will tell. Number 5. Oregon. Oregon, the land of lush forests, stunning coastlines, and craft beer, might seem like a Pacific Northwest paradise, but bubbling beneath its natural beauty is a storm that's hard to ignore. For starters, skyrocketing real estate prices have put a chokehold on affordability, especially in cities like Portland, where the median home cost is climbing toward $500,000. Pair that with stagnant wages, and it's easy to see why many residents are packing their bags for greener but cheaper pastures. Portland itself, once an eccentric and thriving hub, is now battling an alarming homeless crisis that dominates many of its downtown streets. Small businesses are struggling to stay afloat as foot traffic dwindles and commercial spaces sit empty. To make matters worse, crime rates have been steadily rising since 2015. And to make matters worse, crime rates have been steadily rising since 2015. And to make matters worse, crime rates have been steadily rising since 2015. Break-ins, thefts, and other urban headaches have tarnished the city's quirky Keep Portland Weird charm, leaving locals anxious about their city's future. And then there's Mother Nature. Wildfires are no stranger to Oregon. Summers now come with a side of smoke and devastation, with the 2020 wildfires alone scorching over 1 million acres, displacing thousands and causing billions in damages. Tourism takes a nosedive every time the skies fill with ash, crippling one of the state's most vital economic lifelines. But the hits don't stop there. Oregon's government has been plagued with indecision and slow responses to critical issues like housing shortages, budget mismanagement, and ballooning pension liabilities. Critics call it Portland polite politics. Lots of talk, little action. Young professionals are leaving in droves, lured by more affordable states and higher wages, shrinking Oregon's tax base and further deepening the cracks in its foundation. 4. California is often seen as the ultimate dream destination, the land of sunshine, Hollywood glitz, endless beaches, and cutting-edge innovation. But beneath the glittery facade lies a state grappling with a storm of challenges that could push it toward an economic and societal breaking point. Once fueled by the explosive growth of tech giants, California's economy is now feeling the sting of a tech downturn, with over 7,800 jobs lost in 2023 alone. The Bay Area, once a beacon of prosperity, has been hit particularly hard as layoffs ripple across the region. Housing is another critical fault line in California's foundation. Home prices in places like San Francisco and Los Angeles are outright astronomical, with the average cost of a single-family home exceeding $1 million. Renters and buyers alike struggle to keep up, and that's before adding soaring property taxes. Some families have been pushed so far out of the market that they now live in RVs, vans, or cramped communal spaces, a growing trend that highlights the crushing affordability crisis. On top of that, California faces severe environmental havoc. Wildfires have become an almost year-round occurrence, with the 2022 season alone setting devastating records. Entire towns are being forced to evacuate, billions are lost to damages, and thick, choking layers of smoke often blanket communities for weeks. And here's the kicker: property insurers are pulling out of fire-prone zones, leaving many without viable safety nets. The state's broken infrastructure doesn't help its case either. California's infamous traffic gridlocks on freeways like the 101 and 405 bleed billions of hours of productivity each year. And while residents sit in endlessly congested commutes, the $38 billion state budget shortfall raises serious questions about cuts to vital services or increased taxes, either of which will hit hardworking families even further. For all its cultural influence, diversity, and wealth, California appears to be a fragile giant, teetering on the edge of financial and structural collapse. Sure, it's still considered the place for dreamers, but more and more residents are beginning to wonder if the sunshine is worth the price they're paying. Will California be able to hold on, or is the Golden State's glimmer fading fast? Illinois. Illinois could soon find itself in serious trouble, and it's not just Chicago's problem. This state, once known as the Land of Lincoln, feels more like the land of inevitable collapse in 2025. The warning signs are everywhere, and the cracks in Illinois' foundation are growing impossible to ignore. Start with the taxes. Illinois is home to some of the highest property taxes in the nation. Whether you live in the heart of Chicago or a quieter rural area, the tax burden makes residents think twice about staying put. But wait, it gets worse. The state's financial mess is driving businesses out at an alarming rate. Corporate giants like Boeing, Citadel, and Caterpillar have packed up and left, dealing a hefty blow to the local economy. No big-name headquarters means fewer high-salary jobs, less money flowing into communities, and a tax base that's shrinking faster than you'd believe. And then there's the pension crisis. Illinois' unfunded pension liabilities have grown so massive, they loom over the state like a ticking time bomb. Combine that with crumbling infrastructure, roads and bridges that can barely keep up with modern demands, and the future starts to look grim. Outside the urban core, navigating the state's aging highways feels more like dodging potholes on a bumpy ride to nowhere. Even education isn't sparing Illinois from its brain drain. The University of Illinois system produces thousands of capable graduates each year, but many of them are fleeing to states with better job prospects and greener pastures. What about crime? While some areas have seen improvement, high-profile headlines about violence in Chicago's most vulnerable neighborhoods keep families on edge and potential residents looking elsewhere. Attempts to revive the economy with tech startups and new businesses have largely floundered. High taxes and the lack of stability scare away entrepreneurs before they've even unpacked their laptops. Together, these factors make Illinois look like a house of cards in the making, teetering on collapse. Could 2025 finally be the year the whole thing comes tumbling down? Only time will tell. But for now, the exodus continues. Number 2, New Jersey. New Jersey might be famous for its diners, beachfront boardwalks, and proximity to New York, but beneath the surface lies a storm of economic chaos. The state's crushing property taxes are among the highest in the nation, leaving many homeowners struggling to keep their heads above water. It feels less like a home and more like you're funding someone else's dream retirement plan. Add to that New Jersey's ballooning pension obligations, and you've got a fiscal time bomb waiting to go off. Experts warn the state's pension system could soon hit unsustainable levels, threatening financial stability. Commuters who work in neighboring New York are also feeling the squeeze. Long, draining train rides bring them back to expensive neighborhoods where home prices rival parts of New York City. The cost of living keeps climbing, pushing more families to pack up and leave. And why wouldn't they? Between the sky-high taxes and unaffordable housing, many don't see a future here. Economically, New Jersey leans heavily on a few key industries: pharmaceuticals, financial services, and tourism. But all come with instability. Pharmaceutical companies frequently relocate to states with lower costs and fewer regulations, while financial giants often cross the Hudson River in search of better tax incentives. Tourism, centered around the iconic Jersey Shore and Atlantic City, provides a flicker of hope. But even there, challenges persist. Atlantic City's casino scene has been in decline for years, marred by closures and bankruptcies, leaving behind a struggling economy unable to recover its former glory. Drive through certain areas outside tourist spots, and the picture gets even bleaker. Abandoned factories and decaying strip malls litter struggling post-industrial towns, visual reminders of decades of lost jobs. And public infrastructure? it's hanging on by a thread. Crumbling highways, outdated rail systems, and underfunded repairs require billions in investment, money the state simply doesn't have. The result? A mass exodus of residents. Every year, more families leave New Jersey, citing unaffordable living costs and tax burdens as their primary reasons. This outflow of people means fewer taxpayers, which only forces the government to increase taxes even more, a vicious cycle that could lead to economic collapse. Once nicknamed the Garden State, New Jersey is finding it harder to live up to that image, as more residents view it as a financial nightmare rather than an idyllic place to thrive. Number 1, Mississippi. Mississippi might greet you with warm southern charm, sweet tea, and deep cultural traditions, but beneath the hospitality lies one of America's most struggling states. By almost every measure, it's at the bottom of the rankings, from education to healthcare to income levels. The median household income barely crosses $45,000, and large parts of the state suffer from chronic poverty and underemployment. For many residents, the American dream feels more like a distant mirage. While agriculture has long been the backbone of Mississippi's economy, it simply doesn't provide enough opportunities to retain young talent. College graduates leave in droves, searching for better prospects in states with stronger industries and growing economies. Meanwhile, the state's healthcare system is crumbling, with rural hospitals closing at alarming rates, leaving entire regions without access to essential care. On top of that, Mississippi faces a staggering obesity rate of nearly 40%, fueling widespread health problems that further drain already limited resources. Education is another critical issue. The state struggles with underfunded schools, low teacher pay, and severe literacy challenges. A lack of investment in education locks generations into a cycle of poverty, making it even harder for the state to climb out of its economic slump. And the infrastructure? Mississippi's roads and bridges are deteriorating, and basic services like water supplies struggle to function. Even Jackson, the state capital, has faced repeated water system failures, leaving residents without clean drinking water for weeks. Efforts to revive the state's economy, like offering tax breaks to attract businesses, have seen only limited success. With a shrinking tax base, many communities are left to fend for themselves, unable to fund the services residents desperately need. While the state's small-town spirit and sense of community are admirable, they aren't enough to make up for the structural challenges Mississippi faces. The future looks bleak for Mississippi unless drastic changes are made. Its rich history and cultural legacy are undeniable, but without significant reforms, the state risks a downward spiral that could make recovery even harder. And that's a wrap. These are the first 10 states on the verge of collapse in 2025. Did any surprise you? Agree or disagree? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing from you. If you found this eye-opening, smash that like button, share it, and subscribe. Hit the bell to stay in the loop for more shocking predictions and deep dives. Big changes could be ahead. Don't miss out. Thanks for watching. Stay sharp, and we'll see you in the next video.